That place was an electronics gold mine. I found a ton of circuitry I could use, and there were so many cool gadgets that I had to use the van to carry them all.
No kidding. Our cash flow is a bit in the red, right? So I got a job playing Cowabunga Carl at children's parties.
Cowabunga Carl? I'm so glad I wasn't here for that.
Dude, you have no idea. I tell you, bro, these kids today, they're vicious little monsters. So I barely made it out of there alive. And I went to where Dawn was supposed to be waiting for me. But the van was gone.
What are you complaining about? You made it to the van okay?
Yeah, by the skin on my shell. Dawn? Come in, Dawn.
Mikey? Is that you?
One of the things I thought was cool about the 2007 film is that it showed how the family changed while Leonardo was gone training. It had shown that Mikey and Don in particular weren't getting much in the way of exercise or training, and that Mikey had to work as a children's mascot for birthday parties, which he absolutely hated and found humiliating, and Don had to work in IT. In the film, they're both portrayed as incredibly stressful jobs, and it was kind of sobering. This level's the only reference we get to that, and they don't portray it in nearly that way. It's just basically used as a one-off joke, like, haha, Mikey has to work as a children's mascot. What's worse is that this level takes more time than it took to just show the emotional weight of the family changing while Leonardo was gone. So great, good job. Anyway, that aside, Mikey's unique platforming gimmick is that he can hover through the air using his nunchucks. This is easily the most useful of all the platforming gimmicks because you can use it in virtually any situation when you're too scared whether you're going to make a jump or not. The downside, of course, is that it's really, really slow. You know, even as a kid, even when I first watched this film as a kid, I could understand that Leonardo leaving and the stress being put on Mikey and Don as a result of their jobs were not good things. And I grasped why, when Leonardo left, Raphael became more and more emotionally distant, reclusive, and violent. Those are all things I understood as a kid. They were possible to grasp, even as a child. It was really cool, and it's something that stuck with me for years, even after I didn't watch the movie for a long time until I saw it again eventually as an adult, and I was like, damn, this movie rocks. Usually when I go back and consume things I enjoyed as a kid, I find out they're not nearly as good as I used to think. And people have a lot of ideas of what exactly a family movie is, but I think TMNT is a great family movie, not just because of the themes relating to family, but because there's something there for everyone to process. Like, there were things I understood about Leonardo leaving and the rest of the family's emotional struggles even as a child. But then there's this stuff involving... Well, I don't want to spoil some of it in case you decide to watch it, which you should go watch it right now, but there's stuff involving Casey where he's worried that he can't be grown up enough for April. He's struggling to get past his past where he was more childish and ran around like a crazy person. He wants to move past that. He wants to be a responsible adult, but he's worried, he's anxious that he can't do that for April, even though he loves her. That's something I didn't get as a child, but I get that now. That's an incredibly sobering piece of dialogue when he's talking with Raphael on the rooftops about that. Surprisingly mature dialogue. And the line delivery is absolutely excellent, but that's par for the course with the 4 kids voice actors for this iteration of the franchise. I wouldn't be surprised if I watched the movie today and I found out even more things about it I didn't notice. Okay, my shameless love for the movie and its beautiful writing aside, should probably talk about this level. This level is where the game starts to show its insecurity about its, the size of its length. Its lengthiness. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't think an A+ ranking in speed for a level should be 12 minutes. That seems a little bit too long for me. This game was made by Ubisoft, so it's understandable that Ubisoft, in particular, you know, because they're so large and prolific, would be a little worried about general critical reception to the game. So they want to uphold a standard of quality that appeals to both reviewers and consumers. And sadly, part of upholding that standard of quality for reviewers is making the game longer. Because, as we all know, or at least I assume you know, game length is something reviewers fucking love to complain about. Even if a game, such as this one, would definitely benefit from being shorter due to its game design, more AAA developers will make the game longer simply to avoid criticisms from professional reviewers that the game is too short. That's not to say people didn't complain this game was too short. It's never good enough. It's never good enough. Fucking 20 hours long is too goddamn short. My hyperbole and frustration aside, it is a serious problem that this game artificially lengthens itself because it's clearly afraid of being called too short an experience. In any game where you're asking the players to do their best to retry the level and get the best time possible to get that A+ rank or S rank as it is in Japanese games, you want the levels to be as short as possible while still keeping the design intact. If there's too much filler, players are going to lose interest getting back to the part where they failed, and they're not going to want to A+ rank or S rank the stage. This level is a great example of that because there's so much goddamn filler. Just completely inconsequential, mindless double jumping. And no matter how many times I play this level, and how many years it's been since I've played this game, I'm always like, damn, is this level over yet? Like platforming on the balloons with their odd shapes as a way to introduce you to using Mikey's nunchucks to land on more precarious platforms, that's pretty cool. What's with all the completely mindless double jumping in between that? Like, what's this for right here? What does this add to the game design? What's this doing? Nothing. Get it out of there. Remove it. Speaking of unnecessary filler, it's completely unnecessary to have 4 combat segments in this level. Mikey is not a combatant, it doesn't fit with his character, and the combat sections are incredibly dull. There don't need to be 4 of them in a platforming-heavy level. It's not like I can't appreciate the design that isn't filler. You just heard me talking about the balloon sections and how much I appreciated those, because those teach you how to use the helicopter nunchucks, but at the same time provide a genuine challenge and unique platforming, especially if you're trying to move quickly. This doesn't do that. What is this here for? These are the second easiest enemy type in the game. Why are there so many of them? Why can't I just fight 5 or 6 of them and move on? I mean, you know why. I just complained about why. The reason why is because the game is insecure about its own length. Because it has to appeal to professional critics. You know, I'm not a heartless bastard. This part where we're riding the scaffolding, this is fine. Because it's a unique set piece. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You can spend a few seconds riding the scaffolding and having Splinter talking over it. That's fine. Takes maybe 5 seconds. But all this senseless double jumping that adds up to well over 2 to 3 minutes. Let's leave that alone, okay? Speaking of these balloon segments, the first time I ever played this video game was the PC port, because I owned the PC port for a long time, but we never had a computer that could run it. Until very recently. When I say very recently, I mean a couple of years ago. But I finally played the PC version of this game, which is an identical port. And I couldn't finish it. And I couldn't finish it because the PC port's controls seemed to be broken. Here's one of my favorite parts of the level, right here, where we have to climb on that advertisement. Because there's actually a way to circumvent waiting for the soda can. See, normal people might think you have to wait for the soda can, but you can actually climb on this. Granted, we missed the timing, but you can totally climb on that to get to the soda can instead of waiting for it. And I think that's neat. I really like that. In addition to the set piece of climbing on an advertisement, they added a way to do it faster for more skilled players. That's cool. That's good stuff. Anyway, as I was saying about the PC port, the controls for the PC port just seem to be busted. I would like someone else to please, if you own the PC version of this game by any chance, or can get it by any means, could you please verify that for me? Because I tried really hard to play the PC port, but it seems to be broken. The detection for jumping seems to not work. And at first I thought it was because the game just required really precise button inputs and I was doing it wrong. But eventually I got the PS2 version and I realized it's quite the opposite. The game is very lenient about when you press jump. It has the most variable jump height and length in any 3D platformer I've played. The PC version, the only thing I can think of is that it just must be a bad port, like something's messed up in the code somewhere. So if someone could help me figure that out, that would be great. This fight introduces a new type of enemy, guys that throw toxic goo, and if we step into toxic goo or get hit by it, we'll take damage and have to do a little animation to get back up. You're never in danger of getting hit by the toxic goo though, so the enemy type goes to waste. Unless you're using the basic combos to fight the enemies for some reason, which again I don't recommend. Now, you may be looking at the combat and just thinking it's awful because you can cheese the whole thing by holding down circle and using the homing attack, but there are some exceptions to that. Here's another nice, unique platforming section where we're being pushed back by wind, and we have to slowly make our way around these electrified puddles while pushing against the wind. If we jump, the wind will push us further back, so we have to carefully maneuver our way around. It's actually good. That whole section took like, what, 10, 15 seconds? And it was a really good section of the level. And this is where the level should end. We're in the abandoned building, and Dawn's right beneath us, so we should just be able to hop down and meet Dawn. But instead we're going to use the elevator. And in any beat-em-up or 3D platformer beat-em-up with an elevator, there's going to be enemies. It's just a rule. There have to be enemies in the elevator. If you don't have enemies in the elevator, that's it. They fire you. You're done. Get out. Now, to the game's credit, I do always get hit here every time, because this guy with the pipe always beams me upside the head. Yep. Always right there. But don't worry, that won't ruin our A rank. We only took one hit. The game's not that ruthless where you have to complete every level without getting hit once in order to get an A rank in combat. There are some levels that you have to complete without getting hit. This isn't one of them. It's okay to get hit once here. So these are purple dragons we're fighting right now, and they don't really get any sort of story relevance in the game. But Mikey says something in this level that I can relate to. In a bit, I think he says, "Dawn, did you park the van near a purple dragon cloning machine?" And I can sympathize with that. I can sympathize with Mikey's frustration. Because the level should have ended as soon as we got in the abandoned building. We should have just jumped down. Just should have jumped down to meet Dawn. Climbed on the outside of the building, got down to the van, and that's it. I actually can't think of a good reason Mikey would use the elevator. If you've seen the 2003 animated series or the 2007 movie, using an elevator isn't something they do. They don't do that. They are incredibly acrobatic. There's no reason for them to do that. I could understand if it were a situation where it would save time, like when we rode the scaffolding earlier, but this is a situation where it's clearly taking extra time to use the elevator, when we could have just dropped down. Because Dawn's right over here in the alley.
Are you hungry?
Dude, are you kidding?